Why, Piaya, Isquistina Gilio-Whitaker, and I'm coming to you today in what I'm hoping will be the first of a series that I will be doing on the topic of basically built around my most current book. So I released my third book, came out about 2 months ago in October of 2025, and it's called Who Gets to be Indian? Ethnic Fraud, Disenrollment, and Other Difficult Conversations about Native American Identity. And I use here the term identity in quotes. And I'm calling this series Straight Talk About Native Identity, again in quotes. And the reason I'm using it in quotes is really a hat tip to Kim Tallbear's work. And for those of you who are familiar with the scholarship on this topic, Kim Tallbear, of course, is one of the giants in this field who, for her work, her research, and so she talks about how identity may not be the best word for us to use when we're talking about what it means to be Native American. So I want to acknowledge the importance of her work, hers and others, but especially in this context of the word identity, because she has taught so much on this topic. So I want to talk about why I wrote this book. It comes really at its deepest level from who I am as a Native person. And what I mean by that is that I'm not a member of an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe, but I am a documented descendant of a federally recognized tribe. That's the Colville Confederated Tribes, which is based in Washington State. My mother was an enrolled member of the tribe, and because of enrollment criteria, which comes down to blood quantum, I can't meet that criteria. And it's something that I've wrestled with for my whole life, like, a lot of difficult emotions around that, about blood quantum and about, am I enough? And I think that this is a topic that a lot of people a lot of people have those same feelings. A lot of us are stuck in that liminal space of belonging or not belonging in our tribes. And so that's sort of a starting point for me. And then it just goes, way deeper into my own experience around not just enrollment, but what it means to be an urban Indian, like, somebody who grew up in a city uh, uh, far away from my tribal community. And, as a grandchild of somebody who went through the boarding school experience. And that really, over many years and decades of examining my own nativeness, that's how I understand myself in this very historical way. But so the book goes into all of that. It's a combination of autoethnography or memoir. I talk a lot about my personal experience, but it's also based in solid scholarship, and also sort of a journalistic approach, which involves storytelling and from a very cultural perspective as well. So I'll start by giving an outline of this book, and I'll share with you the table of contents to give you a sense of the sort of the tone and tenor of this book, which I want to also, by the way, acknowledge that this book is, the reason I call this little series Straight Talk is because that's just my style. That's how I am as a writer, as a person, as a scholar. I tend to be pretty upfront about what I see, and what I understand about any given topic, and as at the same time, make sure that it's really solidly grounded in facts and history and truth. So I consider myself a truth teller, and some of the people who have endorsed this book, I will say, in the back cover include Kim Tallbear, Liza Black, Daryl LaRoe, and Gabe Galanda, who are some of the most important thinkers in our field of American Indian Studies. And their endorsement of this book sort of reflect that I tend to write in an unvarnished way about what I see as truth. I know that this book will be something that some people really appreciate in the 2 months that it's been out now. This is what I've seen. People have reached out to me and thanked me for writing it, and other people have been unhappy about it, to the point of potential legal challenges. And I won't say anything more about that right now, but as this progresses, I will speak out more about that. So I'll leave that aside for now. But I also want to talk about why it's kind of important right now for me to be talking about why I want to go on camera and make a video series. And that has to do with what happened this week with the Lumbee recognition. So this is December 21st. That happened. The Lumbee got recognized in a bill, the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. It's an appropriations bill that happens every year in Congress, and it's sometimes called an omnibus bill because what happens with this bill is that Congress will slip in other kinds of legislation inside that bill. Often it's done under the dark of night, so to speak. It's done, they will pass some legislation this way that is a way to escape some scrutiny for topics that might be like a kind of controversial. And this Lumbee recognition bill is very controversial. And you've probably seen on social media this week, a lot of celebration about it. People are saying, yay, the Lumbees finally justice is being done, things like that. And then you'll see other people saying, this is really, really troubling that the Lumbee have gotten federal recognition. And I'm on that side. But here we are with this very questionable piece of legislation that's been passed in the light of what many people have said are, a lack of historical documentation about who the Lumbee are. And that raises some very big questions about federal recognition and about sovereignty. I think that congressional acts of recognition can be an important tool, but I think in this case shows that it can be abused. And I think that this is probably a case of abuse, especially considering the Lumbee could not pass the Office of Federal Acknowledgements criteria. This was years and years ago. So they've sidestepped that process, and that raises big questions. But that's all I'll say for now about that. But I do want to do an outline of the chapters very briefly. I'll just give you the chapter names for this book. And there's, if we count the introduction and the conclusion, there are 8 chapters in all, six chapters in the body, but 2, 1 in the front matter and 1 in sort of the back matter. The first chapter is called A Pretendian Princess, The Curious Case of Sacheen Littlefeather. This is the foundation for the book. It's a case study about ethnic fraud. Chapter 2 is Indigeneity, Nationhood, Racialization, and the Settler State, Why Political Status Matters to Native Identity Formation. Chapter 3 is called Who's Running the Show? Indians in Hollywood and the Birth of Native American Ethnic Fraud. Chapter 4 is called Indians, Hippies, and Shamans, Oh My, California and the Birth of Neo-Indianism. Chapter 5 is Kill the Indian to Save the Per Cap, Settler Capitalism, and Tribal Belonging and Unbelonging Through Disenrollment. Chapter 6 is called Slippery Politics, Why Claims to Indianness Are So Common. And the conclusion is called The Lessons of Tricksters, What Coyote Teaches Us. And here I take a cultural approach to understand the issue of Native identity, especially around pretendingism and ethnic fraud. So I'll stop right there, and I'll drop another video in the next few days. Thanks for listening.